Hello, hello, hello. It is your girl R. Excited to be back for season 2 of, or episode 2 of season 2. Lord have mercy. If you don't know this things, so with that being said, we're just going to get right into it. As always, we start this podcast out with music reviews, which are submitted by independent musicians from across the globe. We do have a lot of local musicians from Orlando because that is where we are based out of. So with that being said, let's get right into it. We got a good amount of reviews this month, so I'm going to try to keep it as short and sweet as possible. First, we have Good God by Daniel Thomas. Short and sweet. Definitely a trap song with like classic hip-hop influences, and this shows most in the flow and cadence. Definitely a solid production, but the mix, the vocals are not sitting perfectly within the beat. There's something that's wrong. Very high energy, very confident, and the song is all about being an underdog. It reminded me a lot of Denzel Curry, and you're added to the Run It Back playlist, and you have also been played, or will be played on the radio if you have sent me your MP3 and not just a song link. Next, we have Freak on a Parade by Rose on the Avenue. This is an upbeat punk rock song. The vocalist is super, super gritty, very distinct voice, super memorable for sure. The mix could be a lot better, and I personally suggest experimenting with different effects, not only vocal effects, but effects in the aspect of production to introduce more variation into the record. You could definitely cut a chorus from this song and it would still get away fine. I think it would actually probably stream better and maybe be a better song just because it is a little long, it's a little repetitive, and you want to kind of avoid that if possible. And then finally, I really enjoyed the DIY video. It felt super authentic and fun, and I think that it was perfect for what you guys produce. Next is someone that has submitted a few songs onto the podcast. Definitely someone that I fuck with. I fuck with their music for sure. Pray for Pan with his single Check My Temp. I believe he also has a video. Yes, he does have a video out for that as well. Very fun. It sounds a little poppy. It's like a cloud rap trap kind of song, but his vocals, not only like the melodies that he's using, but just like the cadence, the way that he sounds is giving poppy vibes. Definitely some memorable lyrics and melodies, very engaging song structure, and I can tell that this is going to be a super fun song to perform on stage. I think that it's going to be, is going to have a really good reaction from the audience. Then we have Close Friends by Violet Surfer. This is a mid-tempo R&B hip-hop track, very 90s inspired, especially with the production. It's a love song about a passionate yet dangerous love. And yeah, there's very fun melodies. I suggest enunciating more when you're speaking and mixing with your vocals in mind, thinking about the vocals being the star of the show and not necessarily the production. We all love a good beat, yes, but we want to cut a record that is like fully rounded out, you know what I'm saying, in all aspects. Next up, we actually have an unreleased song that I'm super excited to talk about that hopefully when it's actually out, we'll be able to continue playing it and all of that good stuff. We'll see. Letter to a Friend by Nature. Nature is another Orlando musician who is also a guitar player. Wonderful guitar player, amazing vocals. And this is a contemporary R&B song. And I personally love, of course, that you made the guitar a forefront piece of the record. Super groovy and catchy. There's a great hook, and the melodies all around are super memorable. And I also think that you have great storytelling within this song. It's about, you know, falling in love and having to let go, that kind of thing that, you know, we've all been through. And it's truly a beautiful song, so make sure that you look out for it because it will be released at some point. Next, we have At It Again by P. Butta, who is a vet in Orlando. This is a mid-tempo, groovy hip-hop song. And like I said, he's a vet in Orlando. He's a very seasoned musician, and you can tell in his music because the songwriting is on par. the production is on par, the mix is on par. And then when you go to the branding aspect and the visual side of things, the music videos are on par. It's all his brand and his self, his entity as a musician. Like I said, it really just shows that he's been doing this for a long time and he knows what he's doing. And I can always, always, always appreciate that. It's a feel-good motivational song with themes of persistence. So if you are feeling like you just need to remember that you are that girl or you are that guy and you just need to get back up again, great song for that kind of energy. And then we have Rockstar by Dre XL, which is an up-tempo alt-rap song. Very reminiscent of Juice WRLD. Oh, Lord have mercy. Sorry about that, y'all. Very reminiscent of Juice WRLD, and it's a fun song. Again, a great performance song. I can tell that the audience, again, is going to react very well to this. And then I really like the use of your ad-libs, but your ad-libs are mixed better than your main vocal, and that is a problem. And I'm not trying to say that in any type of way. It's just is what it is. I heard your ad-libs better and more than I heard your lead vocal and where it was sitting in the mix generally. I don't know if you do everything yourself or if you have an engineer, but definitely something to take account of. Once again, your lead vocal needs to be the star of the show, and everything should be pointing at you in the mix. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't, that's okay. Find an engineer who understands these things. All right. Moving on. Mercenary Love by Dean Z. If you don't know who Dean Z is, I know of Dean Z actually through open mics in like the Kava and Kratom community. If you didn't know, I used to be a Kava tender. And I frequent those kind of bars a lot. But Dean Z is probably one of the funniest performances that I've ever seen. And it's just so specific, like who and what he is, and he's so niche. And I think that things can really work out for Dean Z, seriously, and we'll talk about that. This song "Mercenary Love" is an upbeat Afrobeat pop song. And yeah, he's, like I said, he's just so specific. He has such a distinct style and voice. And I feel like he, once again, can go very far, but he can't take himself seriously, because the reason why is because the shit is funny. Like, I cannot stop. And when I say that, we're laughing with Dean Z. We are all laughing together because it's fun. That's the kind of energy that he has, is he does light up the room and bring joy through laughter, through, you know, his music. But it's just, like I said, he can't take himself seriously. It has to always remain fun. And like that joyous kind of just, almost, and like shock value is of course a part of it too, because he'd be saying crazy shit. Like, what is the, something about glizzies that, that's the song that I think a lot of us are introduced to Dean Z by, but I can't, because it's so funny. But like I said, I really think that he could go far. With this song specifically, the production is pretty repetitive, and it seems like you may not have like the stems for the song, so it might be like a YouTube beat, or at least where you don't have everything, you just kind of got like an MP3, or that's kind of what you had to work with. That's what it sounds like. And I say that because of the way that everything is balanced, especially with the vocals. And it sounds also like things were kind of mixed separately, like not necessarily taken into account of how the record is going to mesh everything together. But as all of your music does, Dean Z, it put a smile on my face, and I had fun listening to it. So if you need a smile, go ahead and listen to Mercenary Love by Dean Z. Next up, we have Live Life by C12, which is a mid-tempo alt-rap song. Very catchy hook and good melodies. And by the way, totally neglected to mention, At It Again, Letter to a Friend, Close Friends, and Check My Temp are all added to the Run It Back playlist and will be played on the radio. Oh, okay. But yeah, you're going to be played on the radio at our upcoming shows if you have not already been played the past show, and I have, and not just your link. Oh, Lord. Okay. Yes, Live Life by C12 is a mid-tempo alt-rap song. There's a catchy hook, good melodies, and there's a lot of fun switches in the song, whether that be his flow or the beat itself. But something that I think is a theme is... Thank you. Something I think that has been a theme today is that the vocals need to come forward. The vocals need to be the star of the show, and if you are mixing your own music, you need to think about that during that process. Next up is Problems by Zay Tariq, which is another local musician that I personally really, really enjoy. And this is an R&B hip-hop song, very like Bryson Tiller, but his vocals are way grittier. And this song is specifically about just life's problems, persistence, and like self-awareness, knowing what the fuck is going on, you know? So you have some fun punchlines in there. Again, the production is a little bit repetitive and the record needs a better mix, but overall, it's a great song. And you're on the playlist and on the radio. Moving forward, this is actually one of my favorite submissions from this month, and we also had them on air recently. We have Zuko with the song Catch Me, and Lil Bro is just hard as fuck. Like, I met him in college at a cypher that me and my artist Falaire put together during like Hall of Fame at Full Sail, and I just remember my first time ever seeing him. And dude, it's just a bunch of people all on the, underneath the pavilion, you know, circle, of course. People are rapping, people are doing their thing. Of course, there are those guys who like won't get out the pit. They keep rapping, not really give it other people, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you just see Zuko silently, and he's kind of small, no offense, I love you, but he's kind of small, so he just kind of like came in and eviscerated everyone before him, basically, and was like, oh yeah, y'all could do all that rowdy shit, but I'm literally just gonna come in and spit. And that's exactly what he did. And that introduction to him, like, for me personally, I love Zuko. This song, Catch Me, is just bars out the ass. If you like Denzel Curry, you will probably like this song. It's very much of that kind of same cloth. The production and the verses, in terms of like the cadence, the melody, it's a little bit repetitive, and changing things up every once in a while is going to take it to the next level 100%. And it needs a little bit of a better mix. I know that with the type of music, it's definitely like a gritty vibe, and that's totally fine, that's totally cool, but just going back to those things of like just where things are sitting in the record is what I would focus on most. But overall, one of my favorite songs this week, and I loved having you on air and being able to talk to you a little bit more about it. All right, we only have 3 more, guys, so we're gonna continue getting through this. Next, we have All the Way Up by Shawty Lean, who is a self-described R&B, rap, and Afro-alternative artist. There's a great mix on this song. I was super, super, super pleased to hear a mix that was up to par. Very, very breathy hook with a lot of space, and then you totally contrast that in her verses. Very strong tone in her verses. She's definitely coming at you. And this is like a pussy stunting song. If you don't know what pussy stunting is, basically just being that bitch and walking like that bitch into any room or any place or on a runway, whatever it is. That's the type of song that this is. And I appreciate Shawty Lean. I actually met her recently, and she's a super, super sweet girl. So moving on, we have Grind by D So Nice, which is a low-tempo contemporary R&B song with rap and hip-hop elements. The first thing that comes to mind for me with this song is like your rising or your morning routine, you know, getting up in the morning and starting your day calm with a calm ambition. You know what I'm saying? Like, you woke up and you're feeling good and you're zen, but like you're ready to tackle the day. You're ready to be productive and do what you have to do, you know? I can also hear this in like a workflow sense. Like, this is probably a really good song to add to like your study playlist or your work from home playlist type thing. Calm and inspirational. That's the vibes. We're not trying to rile ourselves up and get in the mosh pit and like go crazy, but we still want something. You know, we still have an energy there. It's just different. It's just not like that, you know? Okay. And then, I'm so excited. My favorite submission of this month, and the submission highlight of this month is, well, I should say the month of March rather, because we're about to go into April, is the song Pain Smiles by Earth Tones. Earth Tones submitted this song, and I was sitting in Lake Cava, which, if you, shout out to Lay. I was sitting in Lake Cava on my computer, doing what I need to do. And if I've talked about this before, usually I'm multitasking when I'm listening to submissions because it just makes the most sense for me to do. So I'm, you know, doing some research or whatever I'm doing, and the shit starts coming through my ears, and I had to stop. Like, I actually had to stop so that I could listen to what the fuck this person was saying, because every moment of this song is something new that creates, how I described it is world building. Like, every decision that Earth Tones made when it came to the construction of this song was to put the listener in a state. And a state is what I was put in. The way that I've kind of described it is like hauntingly whimsical is a really good way to describe it. But she is a self-described contemporary folk artist. And this is actually the title track of a EP that she recently released. And the song itself is driven by grief, somber, forced acceptance, and some painful things, some hard things that we talked about, because Earth Tones did come on air on our last radio show. But overall, Earth Tones, you need to check them out. That's really the end of the story. To touch on it, when I had our interview, we touched on the fact that she actually had a major arm surgery before tracking this EP. And they also had suffered losses in their family and in their life as well. And hearing just about emotionally and physically the challenge that this was to come to fruition was really, really beautiful, especially because the story is a testament of like how true of an artist Earth Tones is. Like, one of the main things that really stood out to me was when they were talking about having sessions that were only 20 or 30 minutes long because of pain, because they just went through a major surgery. And that is real passion. That is real love. When you physically have to fight pain in order to get your idea out, that's extremely powerful. Not only is Earth Tones an extremely powerful mental and physical just strength to be able to follow through with something like that, but one of the things that I said on air was like, also that type of music, when something, not only the emotion but like the process of recording it was that powerful and intense, I just feel like there's no way to listen to the music and not have it resonate through there. One of the things that Earth Tones mentioned was like there's parts of them just truly crying on the record, but it felt authentic, and that's what the record was about. And I just really, I love the song, and I think you will too if you go check it out. I'm going to stop talking about it. We're going to move on to some industry updates and just close out the review portion of things. So, with that being said, whew, matter of fact, let me take a drink of water just because that was kind of long-winded. The last episode, we literally had one submission, so I love the jump from then till now. We'll see what next week is looking like. And real quick, before we move forward, I will mention that we are always taking submissions, and you can submit on dareandefy.net. If you go and navigate over to the little arrow on dareandefy.net, you will see the submit music button. Go ahead and click on that. Fill out the information, attach your links and your files, and I'll be talking about you and possibly playing you on the radio, possibly putting you on playlists. And of course, there's always going to be one person that I choose to do a blog post about and invite them on air to talk about their song, because I just think that it's fucking fire, and that's what I want to do, you know? So, once again, like I said, moving on into industry updates. First, we have digital performance royalties, something along that sphere, because we're talking about Sound Exchange. The cumulative distributions have now passed $11 billion in digital performance royalties since its launch in 2003. This marks the third time in a row that 12-month distributions have exceeded $1 billion. During its 21 years, Sound Exchange has advocated on behalf of creators for the U.S. Copyright Board, helping achieve increases of 711% in satellite royalties, 294% in subscription royalties, and 215% in non-subscription royalties. So, real quick to touch on it, that's great news because, number one, we're getting money in the pockets of artists. That is their money, right? Number two, I always love talking about this stuff so that we can just reiterate that you can collect money from these places too. You need to set up your accounts with these royalty collection agencies so that you can get paid as well. Sound Exchange is one of them. They collect digital performance royalties. And if you caught it there, when we're talking about the increases of satellite, subscription, and non-subscription royalties, we're talking about like passive radio. That is where digital performance royalties come from, and things like DSPs as well. So make sure that you sign up with Sound Exchange, because you probably have money in the bank that you don't have in the bank because you don't know what to do. So Sound Exchange in Google. Sorry, y'all. I gotta get the hang of this. I'm gonna have to edit it before I'm gonna have to edit this before we go to DSPs. Anyways. Lord have mercy. Yeah. Type in Sound Exchange into Google and you'll see what I'm talking about. You can create an account and move forward from there. Start registering all of your music. The second story is going to be veteran music tech Tracy Chan has exited his role as COO of SoundCloud after less than 2 years to become the CEO of Red Hot AI music creation platform Splash, which has integrations with Roblox and Alexa. It bills itself as the world's most advanced music technology company that makes creation simple, intuitive, fun, and accessible to everyone. The startup is a developing AI game The startup is developing AI-powered games and tools that enable music creation. These tools allow users to create, perform, and interact with fans within what it calls a virtual, never-ending music festival. So obviously, the company has a growing, great team. The CEO of it being, again, a music veteran named Tracy Chapman, who was the COO of SoundCloud. So we will see how that develops. I think that it's one of those things where I think it could definitely be a kind of like buzzy kind of thing, in terms of like, is it a good or a bad thing? I think it's just a tool. And if they can develop a really good tool that can be used to help musicians, then I am all for it. And of course, you know, in like the Web3 metaverse space, it's a whole new market. So the aspect of also being able to like perform and interact with your audience through the program is interesting. Next, I think this is actually really interesting. BandLab has passed 100 million registered users of its flagship social music creation platform, up to 40 million in of the platform's creators are based in the US. At least one bona fide hit emerged from BandLab's 100 million creators. David, I don't know, DV4D, broke onto Billboard Hot 100 in 2022 with Romantic Homicide, a track he created in the app that also resulted in his signing with UMG's Interscope Dark Room label. Seeing artists go on to major labels and independent labels is great. Great joy and success for us, Kuok said. Our relationship with an artist doesn't end when they progress in the industry. I think this is really cool, of course, because BandLab is an app that you can download on your phone to start making music. Of course, is that what I recommend to people who want to take this seriously and have a larger budget for things, or who can allocate larger budget for things? I'm not going to recommend that you use BandLab, but I think that BandLab can be used in the process for things like demos or reference tracks, or just exactly picking up an idea and putting it somewhere, having somewhere to store it. That isn't your voice notes, I guess. You know, it definitely can be useful for something. And then you also have the aspect of kids or people who truly just do not have the budget to buy recording equipment or hire an engineer, whatever the situation is. It can also, of course, be used for those purposes. And then the fact that there is music that is coming out of it, you know, the one example that we have of something making its way to billboards and making, you know, the artist making their way to signing a deal, it's fire. And this is what, you know, the idea of like accessibility with technology and just making things more possible for people as we move forward in music, I just think is pretty cool. And it also reminds me of Steve Lacy. I believe it was his first project that he recorded, I think majorly on his phone through GarageBand. It just reminds me of that, where it's just like you work with what you have, and it's all about how bad you want it, you know? So, boom. Australia's recorded music industry enjoyed a fifth consecutive year of growth in 2023, as wholesale revenue climbed to $676 million, a double-digit year-on-year spike. The hero, streaming, in particular paid subscription models, and to a lesser extent vinyl. For the calendar year, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and ad-supported models, and the myriad subscription platforms generated more than $467 million, up 13.86%. Ad-supported models, which the industry sees as the carrot to entice music fans into making a monthly financial commitment, posted a review of more than $68 million, up 15.25%. Video streaming platforms contributed upwards of $62 million in 2023, up 3%. Vinyl albums continue to spin a good news story for the record business. More than $42 million was generated by wax, up 14% from the year before. So, we've talked about before how kind of the fear with streaming is that it's going to eventually cap. Eventually there's going to be no one left to get a subscription. All the people who are going to do it are going to do it. And Australia has obviously not hit that yet. They are still going on their upward trajectory in terms of getting people onto streaming platforms and growing that market. And then, of course, something that is not exclusive to Australia, but of course also happening over there, is just the resurgence of vinyl, and that being something that is adding to the market. Alrighty. The next thing, it has to do with Canada and their Canada Music Fund to help the Canadian music sector continue to support the success of a range of Canadian artists at home and abroad. They approved $32 million over the next 2 years to keep supporting initiatives that enhance the careers of Canadian artists while strengthening the competitiveness and stability of the Canadian music sector. Go Canada. Global music revenues were up 10.2% last year, to the tune of $28.6 billion, according to figures released Thursday, March 21st. But record firms are concerned over how to maintain growth in the streaming area. Lord. Once again, like I just said, the issue that we're having is how do we continue making money after the people who are on streaming sites are all on streaming sites? And we're going to get into something that Spotify is doing soon, but I think that if we can think about things like selling merch and tickets through Spotify and those kind of integrations, I think are obviously the first answer to their problem. So and I think it can work. It all just has to be integrated properly, and it has to be user friendly, not only for artists, but of course, listeners. Moving forward, this is the final story in the industry update section. The organization that represents the recorded music industry worldwide, IFPI, has published 3 new global album charts highlighting last year's biggest releases by sales, as well as the top-selling vinyl and streaming albums of the year. The only non-K-pop artist present at the top 20 was Taylor Swift and her album 1989, Taylor's Version, which IFPI reports sold 2.8 million units globally in 2023. And the IFPI, it measures unit sales across all physical formats, as well as full album downloads in a combination according to IFPI known as pure sales. So we're not talking about streams here. We're talking about sales. And there is like a conversion when it comes to like streams to sales, and what that is, obviously it's kind of a jump, but I don't know how I feel about that. I think that it's not necessarily surprising that the largest albums, the top 20, are all K-pop, because of course the fandoms, plural, in that market are like nothing else. It's like barbs everywhere, you know what I'm saying? And the music is going to do good because of that, of course. I think that something else that we can take into account is the fact that we're talking about albums here, and we are in the TikTok streaming single era, where unless you are a diehard fan, it's becoming harder and harder to convince artists to make albums and to convince listeners to listen to albums, unless they are already extremely, just invested in the artist already, like a Future or a Drake or a Kendrick, who can release albums and who can have them, have great listenerships. But even then, that's a conversation that we can have of like just the trajectory of listenership for full-length projects. Next, we're going to talk about some streaming-specific things, some DSP-specific things. With the addition of universal links, Tidal just made a key avenue of music discovery, sharing music with friends much easier. Using Tidal's new One Link to Rule Them All, friends can play any shared Tidal track, artist, or album on their preferred streaming service with no fuss or feeling left out because they're not on the same platform. I think this is really cool. I think this is one of those things where it's like releasing technology truly for the good of your consumers, and your partners in the sense of the artist. So this is going to be great for, of course, musicians. They're going to have a more intuitive way to reach more people, because everything is about convenience. If I have to type your name in, you're going to lose so many people. And it sucks that the world is like that. It sucks that people don't read. It sucks that people don't do research. It sucks that people don't. I understand. But it's the world that we live in. So the ability to make everything as easy as possible and remove any resistance from your consumer or your customer's experience is going to make it that much better for them. And that's what Tidal is doing, not even necessarily for their benefit, because it can be, the music can be taken to another platform and not streamed through Tidal. So I think that this is really cool. And I feel like I don't feel like it should be as cool as it is. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it kind of should, but here we are. Next, we have Spotify testing the addition of video-based courses from BBC Maestro, Play Virtuoso, Skillshare, Thinkific, and others. Lessons in songwriting, music production, overcoming live performance anxiety, and more can be found along how-tos on entrepreneurship, photography, and productivity. We have talked about before things of this nature where different moves that Spotify is making just continually confirm to us that Spotify is not a music company. And even though they have, all of this market share when it comes to how we consume music, it's an audio company. It's like Audible. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just about what people can listen to. And I think the last time we talked about this was when they integrated audiobooks, actually, funny enough, into their subscription model in the sense of, like, if you are subscribed, you can listen to whatever audiobooks that they have. But once again, just an example of the fact that this is it's going to continually be an exploitation of the platform for content and audio, not necessarily music. Music just falls under that umbrella and happens to be kind of what kicked things off because of the history of the company and when it came up and the solution that it was for the industry, even though it was like the worst solution. But with that being said, in terms of the content itself, I think it can be really, really useful. I love anything that has to do with accessible education. So these things being closer to people's fingertips, I think, is always going to be a great thing. And I'm not going to look down on it from that standpoint. You know what I'm saying? So last thing within this streaming section is Tencent Music Group announced on March 22nd that its president and chief technology officer, I probably am going to mispronounce this, Zhenyu Zai or Z, will be leaving his role at the company effective March 31st, which is today, 2024. While details about Zai's future plans remain undisclosed, the press release confirmed his continued involvement. Oh, Lord. Why does this keep happening to me? His continued involvement as a consultant. The company has yet to name a successor for the president role, although it announced the appointment of Min Hu, the current chief financial officer, as a new member of the board of directors, effective on the same date as Zai's departure. All of this comes as the company continues to face challenges from competitors like NetEase Cloud Music. However, Tencent Music remains the dominant streaming platform in China, with its paying subscriber base growing 20.6% year on year in the fourth quarter of 2023 to 106.7 million users. So yeah, we talk about Tencent every once in a while on here. As they just stated, it's the largest streaming platform in China, so you should probably have your music on there because there's a lot of people in China. Moving forward, legal news. We have only 2 stories here, so we'll try to keep it short and sweet. In a historic move, Tennessee has positioned itself as the first state in the U.S. to enact legislation specifically designed to protect musicians and artists from the unauthorized use of their work by artificial intelligence technology. Last week, Governor Bill Lee ratified the Ensuring Likeness, Voice, and Image Security, or ELVIS Act, a pioneering piece of legislation that seeks to safeguard the integrity and rights of creators in the digital age. Now, I'll put this in here because it's a great moment too. There's always a resource document for everything that we talk about on here that just has articles for everything that we talk about. So under what I just said, we go to another article that gets a little bit more in depth about what the ELVIS Act actually is. So it addresses 2 concerns with the PRPA. First, the ELVIS Act provides that an individually, okay, we're going to restart that. The ELVIS Act addresses these two concerns with the PRPA. First, the ELVIS Act provides that an individual has a property right in the use of that individual's name, photograph, voice, or likeness in any medium in any manner. And the ELVIS Act prohibits the unauthorized commercial exploitation of such individual property right. Basically, voice and likeness and all of these different things. A person has a right to these things is what they're establishing, first and foremost. Second, and also, it's also establishing that you cannot use something and profit off of it if it's not yours, or that you can take action if someone does that to you, that's not okay, that it's unauthorized and prohibited. That's what prohibited means. You can't do it. Second, the ELVIS Act also provides for a personal liability if a person publishes, performs, distributes, transmits, or otherwise makes available to the public an individual's voice or likeness with knowledge that the use of the voice or likeness was not authorized by the individual. So, once again, recapping. You can't put anything out in a public you can make whatever you want. It's one of those things where it's like, you can chop whatever fucking sample you want, but you can't put it out publicly if you are not authorized to do so. Second established point. And that the ELVIS Act provides for a personal liability if a person distributes, transmits, or otherwise makes available an algorithm, software, tool, or technology, service, or device, the primary purpose or function of which is the production of an individual's photograph, voice, or likeness without authorization from the individual. Importantly, the ELVIS Act retains general exceptions for the fair use and First Amendment protections. I don't know why AI would need to use anybody's voice for fair use purposes, to be honest with you. I don't think that it's necessary. But I think that it's great that Tennessee is beginning the rolling out of legislation like this. I don't know if it's going to be perfect, because to me, when I'm reading it, it feels like things that are already in place. Of course, the focus being on AI and that type of generative content is important, but I just think, like anything, the first one is probably not going to be the best, and we're probably going to see other laws come into place that may or may not be more effective, but I'm glad that we're starting somewhere so that we can get the train rolling on figuring out what is actually the best thing to do within these situations. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Next and finally, within the legal section, I'm gonna cry. A popular rapper on TikTok must pay Sony Music more than $800,000 in damages for using a copyrighted sample without permission. I'm gonna say that again. $800,000. That is probably closer to $1 million, closer to $1 million than you will ever see in your motherfucking life. So, like, for using a sample. So we just need to establish this. I know a lot of my people habitate online in the music business space have been talking about this. 800,000 reasons to clear that motherfucking sample. Yes, like, it's one of those things, and the more that I read down about this, we'll touch on it, but it's one of those things where you have to know how to move. Like, you have to know what you're doing. Number one, if you can't get the sample cleared, don't release it for profit. If you do, and you go against that, we'll get it. I'll touch on that in a second. Okay. Lord have mercy. Yes, $800,000 for using a copyrighted sample without permission. A federal judge ruled March 27th, saying that the big fine would teach him a six-figure lesson. Okay, she was making an example out of Buddy, all right? about carefully selecting the materials included in his raps. Sony sued Trey Fugo, real name Dontrell Davon Clark Rainbow, goddamn, that's a long name, in 2021, accusing, and this is where you gotta pay attention, in 2021, accusing him of using a blatant sample from 1986 Japanese instrumental song in his 90 MH, a track that Sony claimed had been featured in 155,000 TikTok videos and streamed 100 million times on Spotify. Okay, pause. If you, my humble viewer, are creating a song with a sample in it and you put it on TikTok, is this gonna happen to you? Maybe it could, but one thing that that I want to hone in on is the reason he got sued and he got sent his cease and desist is because the shit went viral. So this is what I was gonna kind of touch on, is like, if you do put it out, if you do something with it, not everyone gets caught. Like, not everyone, because the reason why you get sued for copyright infringement is because you're taking money away from somebody else. That's what it is. If your song with the sample is getting 3 plays, you're not really taking anything that the label cares about. The $10 can stay in your pocket. They don't give a fuck. The reason why you get sued is because if you had licensed the song, if Trey Fugo had licensed this song, there would have been money put into the label and the rights owners' pockets because they either got points on the song or whatever. It was just a buy, whatever the situation was. They would have got paid. But because he did not go the legal route and he just used the content and chopped it and sampled it, put it out, and then as we will go forward in understanding, he was hard to locate within this process. He was warned that this was going to happen. He was given several means of trying to work through this, but he was not cooperative, so he got slapped with $800,000 that he has to pay. And it's one of those things where there's a right and a wrong way to go about things. This could have went a totally different direction if he answered his email with a cease and desist letter and said, you know what, I didn't even know that this was something that I had to do in music. This has been such an intense ride for me with this newfound fame and virality with this song. Thank you so much for creating these works. How can I move forward in a licensing agreement that will work for both of us so that we can keep this song up and you all can feel comfortable with it being up? But of course, that's just not what happened. And getting into that, hold up, let me get into it. Sony has been chasing Trey Fugo in some form since January of 2021, when the company notified him that it believed that 90 miles an hour, miles an hour, I think so, was built on an illegal sample of Reflections, a 1986 song by Japanese composer Toshifumi Hinata. After filing takedown requests in August of 2022 to get the song pulled, Sony finally launched its lawsuit that December. So what that tells me, of course, is that time went by of these folks at Sony trying to get to you, and you didn't want to hear it for whatever reason it was. Probably because you were like, first of all, I don't want to give my money away. Second of all, I don't want to cop to whatever industry, and I want to keep my shit up. That's probably, in reality, what was being thought during this time. But you shot your ass in the ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was not a good decision. I'm telling y'all, the moment that you get a cease and desist, take it seriously. It's not like funny, ha-ha, jokey things. It's important. This legal shit is real. And not only does he have to pay $800,000, specifically $802,997, okay, covering roughly $700,000 that he earned in profits from Spotify, okay, from those hundreds of millions of streams, and other platforms and approximately $100,000 that he would have to pay Sony in licensing fees. So we're going to take a pause here as well, just to $100,000, which is, but guess what? Now he has to pay $800,000. $997. Okay? And however many cents. Listen. So, yes, it's expensive to get the samples cleared. It's expensive to go through legal stuff like this. Whether it's because you're doing the purchasing or you are paying for the lawyer. Whatever the expensive part is, whatever the situation, yes. But the reason why it's so important is because it's preventative. You spend money now so that you don't have to spend a whole shit ton more later, which is exactly, as you can see, what happened. Now, those $2,000 on the end of that $800,000, yeah, that's because Sony, well, rather, the judge is making him pay for Sony's legal costs, $2,000 or so in Sony's legal costs, which I think is petty and funny. But this, like she said, I hope that this teaches you a six-figure lesson. This was maybe not the equivalent, because when they were suing people for the Napster shit, they were suing like moms, you know what I'm saying? Like, not people who had, $700,000 in revenue that they had made from their children fucking pirating music, but in the sense of the making an example out of people who are using intellectual property in a way that they shouldn't, or they're not supposed to, So that's what that stood as a purpose for. And all I can say is just have fun with music, but be smart, dude, and just pay attention. Like, the thing for me, because I could never hate on a sample chop, I could never do it. I have personal feelings about it that I can't hate on you for doing that. But what I can get on you for is not paying attention and not taking heed when you had opportunities to make this situation better for yourself. I'm not going to tell you not to release music with samples in it, period, point blank, if you haven't gotten a license or whatever the case may be, if you can't get the license, whatever the sense is. But you, as an artist, should do everything within your power that you possibly can to either secure a license, or if you get a fucking cease and desist, like, do what you're supposed to do about it. Stand up. You know what I'm saying? Stand on business. All right. We're going to move on because I've been talking about that for way too long. All right. Deals, acquisitions, and partnerships. Just a few of them. Hybe has struck what it calls an expanded long-term agreement with Universal Music Group. The deal provides UMG with exclusive distribution rights for Hybe's music for the next 10 years. 10 years. That's a long time. The even bigger news, the deal will also see UMG invest and further collaborate with Hybe's global superfan platform, Weverse. The expanded agreement also gives Hybe's roster of artists and labels access, to UMG's global network, according to the announcement. Hybe and UMG will additionally collaborate on artist promotions and marketing activities in North America under the oversight of Scooter Braun, CEO of Hybe America. Hybe and UMG first teamed up in 2017 on Megastar's BTS through a distribution agreement in Japan. In 2021, the companies expanded their relationship with a global strategic agreement which saw collaborations across multiple projects as well as Hybe's Weverse, and this is the latest update in their relationship, just continuing to expand for 10 years. That's a long time. It's a big commitment. Second, and finally within this, another Universal Music Group story deal acquisition situation. So UMG and Spotify today announced, which I believe that this was the 27th, I'm gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. An expansion of their strategic relationship that will further amplify music discovery and social interaction and enhance fan experiences across the platform for UMG's family of artists and songwriters. Under the agreement, Spotify will make available a series of new promotional and social features that will help artists drive interaction and generate excitement around new releases. To start, UMG artists will have the ability to share teasers of upcoming music on Spotify to increase fan engagement and pre-save activity before a new release. And additionally, a new agreement with Universal Publishing Group will enable Spotify to distribute music videos in the US, enabling deeper experiences with the songs and artists and songwriters. The companies will continue to explore additional features that allow fans to discover artists and propel the virality of new releases. They will share more details about these new tools and how artists and songwriters and fans can leverage them in the near future. Woo! Been talking, bro. So, I love things like this, specifically because what I see this being, and what we can focus on is that kind of last sentence, is being an incubator for new tools for the users of DistroKid, TuneCore, and all of the aggregators, in ways that they can hopefully be able to use some of these developing tactics or promotional tools that Spotify and UMG is experimenting with their roster, because eventually, of course, as they're kind of noting at the bottom, as things prove themselves and the technology gets better, more people will be able to use it. So I'm thinking about it as like a beta program incubator type situation for these types of things. And I think that that's great. All right. A couple of updates, okay? Number one, back when COVID was a thing, right? Neil Young, along with Joni Mitchell, took their music down from Spotify because at the time, Joe Rogan had an exclusive deal with Spotify for his podcast. And basically, Neil Young and Joni Mitchell felt like Spotify was enabling Joe Rogan to spread misinformation about COVID and vaccines and la-di-da-di-da. So in protest, Neil Young started it, Joni Mitchell followed. And, yeah, hoorah. Standing up for what you believe in, right? Well, both of their music just came back to Spotify a couple days ago. Why that is? Neil Young specifically said that it's because now that Joe Rogan's exclusive partnership deal with Spotify is no longer around, that it just doesn't make sense to continue boycotting, because then he would have to boycott everyone, and that's not conducive to him, you know? Joni has not made a statement on it. I'm assuming that she did it for the same reasons, and it's like if the guy that you kind of like were following after stopped and you were like, I'm in solidarity, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, if he's not mad, I can't really be mad anymore. I feel like that's probably why she decided to reinstate her stuff. But I just think it's funny. Like, I don't know. And I'm one of the people who was like very worried about COVID. And I don't think that anyone is naive to not worry about, to worry about COVID or whatever the situation. Feel however you want to feel about it. You know what I'm saying? I just think that it's really interesting because it was like such a gung-ho thing. I mean, you sacrifice money, for real, for real. Both of these artists sacrificed real money for something that they truly believed in, right? And then, I mean, it's just like two years later, and, you know, that's strong will, I'll say, for 2 years to keep it how it is and to lose out on that money. But, you know, now we're back and it's just like nothing ever happened kind of thing. And I just think that it's interesting. I'm not necessarily saying that it's right or wrong. I understand that concept of, well, if it's not just Spotify, you know, how am I going to be consumed by my listeners? I get it. But there's also a side of me that it's just like, if you really gung-ho, bitch, then really get off of it and sell downloads. You know what I'm saying? If that's what but that's just me being like an asshole, which I have the capability for. Next thing, and this I think is actually way more interesting. Of course, Astroworld happened, and that was a really unfortunate and scary thing, where 10 people died, and a lot more were hurt very badly. And it was, of course, a big buzz topic online, and people had a lot of opinions about it and this and that. I made a long statement about my thoughts on it because it's very scary, and it is very important. Safety in live music, it should always be the number one priority of event organizers at all times. Keeping people safe, happy, and healthy should always be your number one priority. Not money, not fun, not stunting, like whatever the situation is, the safety of your audience is above all else, right? The reason that we're bringing this back up is because some information has surfaced. Specifically, let me get to exactly what I want to say. Here's the damning thing. Safety and Risk Director for 2021, Seth Boardman, warned organizers about overcrowding before this aspect resulted in the tragedy, according to courtroom documents reported and obtained by AAH. Specifically, he made these claims days before they planned the accommodated 50,000 festival patrons, a number that reportedly rose by 5,000 individuals on the day of Travis Scott's concert series. In addition, these new filings reveal that organizers thought they had to account for 5 square feet per person due to fire safety code, when in fact, they reportedly had to hold a standard at 7 square feet. Something else to note in here. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Hold on. Give me a moment. Because I'm almost positive that one of the other things that I read is that the venue actually had a capacity for something closer to like 36 people, which is insane. And that's not working, so don't take my word for that because I can't directly look at it right now. But nonetheless, the simple fact that a safety and risk personnel notified the team about this days in advance that there was going to be an issue with overcrowding. There needed to be a solution thought about for this, and it just wasn't. It just did not happen, and it resulted in people dying. Now, if that is directly the fault of Travis Scott, I cannot say because I don't personally know how. First of all, what happened in those weeks? I wasn't there. I'm not a part of the team. And specifically with that, I don't know how active Travis is within the business aspect of his career. Who's doing what approvals. I don't know what really happens in those spaces, of course. None of us do. So we can't really say whether Travis Scott, the person, had anything that he could have done or whatever the situation was, right? In advance. But what we can say is that Travis Scott, the entity and the business as a whole, that his team, the people around him, did not do their due diligence when it came to this event, and it resulted in something that's really, really historically fucking sad. And as unfortunate as it is a testament of why it's so important to worry about these things when you are putting shows together, because you never want to be in a situation where you created an environment that allowed someone to hurt or unfortunately pass away. So it's definitely a cautionary tale, and such as that. Moving forward, hot topics. We're closing things out. This is the most buzzy part of this podcast. The first thing that we're going to talk about is Yes Jules and the whole situation with Ye and the wet t-shirts. Okay? Basically, it all started with a Reddit post, and I kind of followed throughout this whole thing because I am a self-admitted Kanye fan, so I do kind of pay attention to when things are happening. It all started with a Reddit post made by a very intense Kanye fan, Ye fan, that essentially was just talking about how, in their perspective, in their experience, yes, Jules was exploiting fans by putting them into group chats, discords, and essentially enlisting them to do marketing, promotion, in various different ways, whether that be like boots on the ground or in like the media aspect of things, of like graphic design, putting visualizers and things like that together, or strategies, different things, but all in the sense of exploiting fans and their labor, not only to use it, as her own, but essentially all just to boost, her image, accolades, whatever. And essentially, this Reddit post came out, started getting some traction amongst the Ye fan base and audience, because there is like a group that, and this kind of, for me, really showed me this, because it's not something that I'm a part of or anything like that. But there are, people who are, anyways. They do a lot of shit for Ye, okay? Without them actually working for him, just based off pure love and fandom. So this post came out, and it was sent, I don't even remember who sent it to who, but somebody sent it to somebody, and all within the Yeezy team, and basically it was like, this is unauthorized. They were worried about this, growing and becoming a thing, and kind of cultivating a distrust with Ye's fan base. End of the story. Yes, Jules gets fired. Publicly fired. And publicly slapped with an $8 million fine for violating her NDA, because everything was unauthorized and she was saying things to fans that she wasn't supposed to. Jules was quiet as fuck for a couple of days. And Jules is also a Miami creative, so I've known about her through, not even through Ye, just through like Orlando, Florida shit. Happened to be on her Instagram, happened to watch her story, happened to see that she put a link to her Snapchat where she gives a very detailed description of her history with Yeezy. And let me tell you something. I don't know, because, I saw certain screenshots. I saw certain things that showed me value in that Reddit post of Jules possibly exploiting some people. I'm not going to say that didn't happen, because once again, it's one of those things where I don't know, and I also can't speak for someone else. If you feel that way, you feel that way, and that is what it is. If she violated her NDA, she violated her NDA, and that's what it is, and that is what it is. But I thought it was really crazy, some of the things that she was putting out on Snapchat, because it just showed the underlying problem at Yeezy, which is a complete lack of control and a complete lack of organization and a complete lack of wherewithal, common sense. They're moving off vibes, bro. And like, I get it, but the vibes are bad. Like, the vibes are not good. The vibes are white supremacist. The vibes are not cute, so and that gets into a whole conversation about me being disappointed in Kanye, but that's for another day. The topic in Jules, she shows how she got started, not only in her own career. Basically, she wanted to establish that I am my own bitch, I'm my own brand, and I've been doing shit before I even ever started working with Ye. And of course, she did that through Snapchat, which is, her doing it on the platform, all coincided with each other, But she goes down her resume of, you know, her accolades, how long she's been in the industry, throwing events, being, you know, an influential person. And then it switches over to when she essentially was on a consulting base with Ye and helping them with different listening parties and things like that, and that being how she actually got brought onto the team. And one of the things that came that came up and that just showed me what I needed to see in order to make the statement that I did about the vibes, you know, is that for Vultures, there was a listening party that the Yeezy team did not get a permit on. And Jules released different screenshots of group chats where there was only one person who said, why are we being shut down by cops because of a permit? The first thing that we should be doing. And we're not talking about a little open mic or underground show in a bar. You know, this is Kanye. You not only should understand that you're going to need something like that because of the pull and the draw that you're going to have and the scale of what you're putting together, but you have the resources to get it done. The excuse was that everything was short notice and they couldn't get approved for a permit. Well, that's when you have to say, you know what, maybe we need to fucking plan this out better, you know? And there was another story that she actually shared with screenshots and further things where Jules, you know, saved an event, I believe it was during Art Basel, where, you know, she had actually scoped out different venues and she was trying to do, they went a different direction. She wasn't involved in the project anymore, but she actually ended up having to enlist her sound people and DJs to come and bring equipment and run the entire show because the people on Yeezy's team who put it together didn't think to have a DJ or sound equipment, like things like that, where it's like, I'm looking at these screenshots that are showing me something very clear, and that there is we know that there's dysfunction, period, because of Ye, right? But this was a very clear look into the looking glass of just how dysfunctional they really are, and it's getting ridiculous. Not having a permit, not remembering to have a DJ is very elementary, this is your first rodeo type of thing, and it just shouldn't be that way, and it's really unfortunate. Once again, like I said, I say all of this to say, not to say that Jules is not necessarily guilty or has no wrongdoing when it comes to, you know, why she got fired. Once again, I can't speak for other people and how they feel if they did do work for someone who works at Yeezy that they, you know, la da da da. But what I will say is that I do think that they did her a little dirty. I think that they took it a little bit too far, especially for someone who honestly was one of the most competent people on your team, because it was Jules who was kind of saving these situations. And then she also brought up the exile kind of situation and actually showed proof that she actually was not the person that was being spoken to in that clip. And the reason that she didn't release that clip to prove that is because the full clip, which she did release now, is very, I mean, Kanye has said everything that we can be mad at him for already, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, I can never hear anyone be like me, somebody, and Hitler with a smile on their face and just like not have the shock value of that. Like, it's always just going to be like, whoa, like I just feel like it's always going to have that effect. And just because he has done it over and over and over again, it doesn't make it any more like jarring and unfortunate. So it's just, it's a hot topic. And I think that it's interesting to see inside of a situation like this. And, you know, obviously not everyone is perfect, and clearly some people at the top are just winging it too. So don't be so down and out about yourself, okay? Next. Whew. We're going to talk about Diddy. I'm not going to go too far into it, pretty much because we know that Diddy is who he is. It's the same situation with Harvey Weinstein, Dan Schneider, R. Kelly. Open secret, and everyone knows that Diddy is the devil, you know? what I, you know, his home was raided. There's a new lawsuit. Cassie settled her shit. But you guys all know that, right? The segue of why we're going to talk about Diddy is because Tiffany Red, who is a songwriter who is a part, I think actually the founder of an organization called 100 Percenters. Once again, songwriter herself for the likes of Jason Derulo, Zendaya. You know, she has her accolades. Has also made a statement that she's going to be suing. And she made the statement a couple weeks ago. I didn't want to touch on it then because she had literally just made the statement. And I felt like it was very intense because she went on live and she talked about the fact that she's suing Diddy and Bad Boy and anyone else that she needs to in this process. Basically for just like ruining her fucking life and fucking up her career and primarily because she actually was working with Cassie very closely when she was together with Diddy. So she experienced and saw a lot of different things. And of course, not only is traumatized from that time, but now is traumatized in retrospect, knowing deeper details of things that she did not see when she was around during that relationship. And it was just a very intense video. And I just didn't feel right talking about it then at that moment because I felt like it was just too fresh of a wound. But one of the reasons that I mainly want to talk about Tiffany is not only because I think that everyone and anyone who has anything to say about Diddy should say it with their whole chest, and it should continue to be a rallying cry. This should not be something that goes away in the next week or two because the next news story comes up. Now is the time to hold this man accountable, and that is what needs to happen. So I should continue talking about it. I don't have every single fact, every single thing, and it is a very, 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 very heavy subject. So yeah, one of the other reasons that I want to talk about Tiffany is her 100 Percenters organization and the philosophy that she has behind it, because I think that it's something to talk about. It's something that I saw going around a little bit because she specifically called out like Beyonce, I believe, for stealing song credits, right? To get into it specifically, taking writing and publishing credits on songs that were handed to her, meaning that another writer had a demo or a reference track of a song that was already done, and all Beyonce had to do was listen to the reference track and record it. That started a whole conversation because Tiffany was saying that songwriters deserve 100% of publishing, point blank, period, whatever the situation is. And I just wanted to touch on that a little bit because I have a little bit of a differing opinion. Now, if we're talking about an artist and a producer who also engineers, right? And they team up together and they record a song. The artist should have, if you want to split it 50-50 down that way, and I keep my publishing, and you, the producer, have the whole masters, and that's how we do it 50-50, that's what you want to do, you can do it like that. I don't think that this is realistic. There are 200 points, 2 whole pies to go around when it comes to a song and the money that's made from it and who is able to get that money and where it can go and how it can be split up. And I just think that the statement that songwriters should get 100% of publishing is disingenuous because there's more than one person working on the music. Especially when we're talking about the types of rooms that Tiffany was in. There's so many people, session musicians, producers, engineers, arrangers, background vocalists. There are so many people involved. If you really want to compensate everyone, you have to divvy some shit up. And it might be in the publishing. Yes, the publishing is there for that portion of the work. It is the written, that is what it's meant for, the written lyrics, the songwriters, yes. And should the majority of money go to songwriters? Absolutely. I'm not saying that that's not the case and that songwriters should not be paid. What I am saying is that we have to be more realistic about how money is divvied up. And if we really want to be like equitable and make sure that everyone is being compensated, that includes engineers, producers, background vocalists, session musicians. Sometimes there's more than one songwriter. Sometimes there's more than one producer, and everyone deserves to get fed. You know what I'm saying? And you probably don't want your producer to have all of the masters, if that's how you're doing things, because of course producer agreements, and this is just another layer onto the conversation, it's going to be different with every single collaboration that you do. Everyone is different in terms of what they're comfortable with, what, you know, their fee is, what their terms are. And I just, if Tiffany's statement would have been, we need to fight for more equitable pay for songwriters, and here's how we're going to do it, I would receive it way better. But I think that the buzzy statement of songwriters deserve 100% of publishing is just misleading. I do. I think that I think that it makes sense in certain scenarios, and I understand the essence of what she's saying, and I don't disagree with her. I just think that it should be phrased a little bit differently. It should go a little bit of a different route, because once again, there's so many different people and moving parts that make music happen. And we just got to be real. You know what I'm saying? That's the end of it. The last thing that we're going to talk about as I close today out, before I give you guys some just general updates, is J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake. Of course, this is an ongoing feud and battle, for various reasons. Some are in their feelings, some don't give a fuck, some take this really seriously. Well, all of them take this really seriously. Some of them see it for the sport that it is. Some of them take it personally. You know, here and there, this and that. Of course, everything started with First Person Shooter, which is J. Cole's track with Drake, where J. Cole eviscerates, he shits on Drake in such a visceral way, man. When I first heard that song, it's not in totality, it's not a bad song. I don't hate Drake's part on it. I hate the beat it. I hate Who to Goat so much. It's just very cringe. It wasn't given for me personally. And then when you had Cole go in and body, and Cole said, the one that they call when their shit not connected no more, feel like I got a job in IT. I would have kicked you out the studio, bro. That is like, because you know that he's sending shots everywhere, and the way that Drake reminds me a lot of Nicki in the. You don't have to, because you are a legend, you are who you are, but you're low-key clout chasing. And I know there's like the statement that like Drake is Mr. Clout, and that's why I'm saying he doesn't have to. Like it doesn't have to be like that. But I feel like both artists are trying to be something that they're not. And like Drake has always been that way. I have my personal feelings about him. Despite him, once again, like I said, being the legend and icon that he is, it was just really unfortunate. And to me, Person Shooter just instated that Drake is not in the conversation of top 5, top 10. Drake is a pop artist. He's something. He's right. He is something different than these rappers, because for many reasons, for many reasons, sound, ghostwriters, a lot of different reasons, okay, that I consider Drake a pop artist, and that a lot of people consider Drake a pop artist, and would never even put him in the conversation of top 5 rapper, lyricist, whatever that conversation is, right? But it did what it needed to do to start things off and bring K-Dot into the situation when he said is it K-Dot, is it Aubrey or me? That line, yeah, that ushered what it needed to usher in. And Future and Kendrick. I love the song. I personally, Kendrick has a very special place in my heart. I love J. Cole too, but Kendrick for me is gonna take the cake on the debate between the two, personal taste. But man, he just came out swinging, and he did exactly what he needed to do. He said exactly what he needed to say, and I feel like the team up with Future was just so perfect, because it was like, oh, y'all want to click up? Okay, we'll click up too. And we'll see who really can get down like that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I just feel like Kendrick, like I said, I feel like he did what he needed to do. He said what he needed to say, and he proved a lot of his point. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a response. I know that it has already sparked exactly the purpose of it when it needed to spark, and that is competition and hunger within the rap game, and that's great. People are putting out their own verses, making their statements. People want to prove that they're the best. And Joe Budden, of course, talked about it on his podcast, and one of the statements that he made is, he's happy about it because he's tired of people being fake nice with each other in their faces, for the cameras, for the whatever, for the sake of it. And it's time to get back into, it doesn't have to be beef, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be hatred, and this is my perspective. It doesn't have to be hatred or wanting to hurt each other or anything like that, but I'm very glad personally that, we're seeing a push towards that healthy competition, and people are starting to tee up, because I'm tired of complacent sounding music, you know what I'm saying? I love the chill vibes. That's great. That's awesome. That's wonderful. It has its purpose. It serves its place. But, I want to hear some motherfuckers rap. Like, that's how I really feel. And I'm very excited that we're going to hear that because of this whole situation. Because once again, people are riled up. People are excited, and they want to show that they are the best, regardless of who they are, even if they're in the conversation or not, whatever the situation is, So I love that. I love that it's blog coverage, interview, consideration, all of that good stuff at that website as well. Once again, dareindefy.net. Go ahead and navigate to submit music. Couple of updates we have going on. The next jam session is April 26th here at Inner Space Orlando from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. So, we're going to be in here as we always are, just live streaming, having fun, making music with each other, doing what artists do. You know what I'm saying? And if you haven't checked it out before, definitely always a great time to start. It's just open space for musicians to come together and jam out. That's really all it is. We got drinks, food, good vibes, all that good stuff. Also, we have the next radio show dates, which is going to be April 28th over at Indie Jams. We're going to be starting at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. So if you're interested in, once again, submitting music, go ahead and do that, because if I like it, you'll be played on the 28th. And if you're interested in coming on air and doing an interview, you can also go ahead and reach out to me at ari@dareindefy.net, or you can reach out to me on Instagram, contact us through the website, all of that good stuff. If you book an interview literally today, you can get some new digital resources that we're going to be releasing next month. Literally in the next couple of days, I'm going to be putting out the biggest radio directory in the world. We've got college, public, and high school radio stations from North and South America, Australia, and Europe that you will have access to be able to submit to them, contact them for interviews, all of that good kind of stuff. And then we're also going to be releasing a royalty registration for indie artist PDF, giving you guys the information that you need to make sure you can be collecting all of your cheese, okay? So those are the most recent updates. Mark your calendars, get ready for some fun stuff, get ready to learn, and we're just going to keep trucking along. I will see you guys soon on the next podcast episode, and bye. Ooh. Is this purposeful?